Nicki don't need to worry about Don. She need to be with damn Don Lennon. Nicki Minaj need to be worried about Chris Hansen. That's what she need to be.
Nicki Minaj really seems to wake up every single day ready to turn an already messy situation into something even harder to explain away. What should have been just another loud, forgettable public appearance at an event with Erica Kirk turned sideways fast, and it didn't take long for things to spiral in front of everyone watching. Nicki walked in fully convinced she was about to drag Don Lemon publicly, dominate the moment, and walk out like she ran the room. The energy was confident, almost reckless, like she thought the outcome was already locked in. But almost immediately, things went left. The crowd reaction shifted, the online chatter flipped, and suddenly Nicki wasn't steering the conversation anymore. Instead of a clean win, the spotlight exposed something much deeper. The narrative slipped out of her hands, and people stopped focusing on Don Lemon altogether. That clash quickly started to look like a distraction because a much bigger conversation was brewing behind the scenes, and it was impossible to ignore. According to growing public discussion, this isn't really about a single argument or a media moment at all.
So you can see the protesters here have gathered over here. They're in the middle of the church. During the beginning of the church service, the pastor was speaking, and Nicki stood up and said her piece, and then the protesters surrounded her. But this is a clandestine mission. I think they found out according to them, this is according to Operation Pull-Up, that one of the pastors here is a member of ICE. And so here we go.
A lot of people believe this situation is about money, allegedly. And whispers from people close to the situation say Nicki has been under serious pressure lately. Reports suggest she's been snapping at people around her, clapping back online, and reacting emotionally because the income isn't flowing the way it once did. The checks aren't checking like before, and many believe a major reason for that stress is her decision to marry, defend, and stand firmly behind a husband with long-standing legal issues. And that loyalty may have come with a heavy price. Nicki reportedly came dangerously close to losing her home due to a lawsuit connected to her husband, Kenneth Petty, and that kind of pressure can shake even the biggest stars. She managed to avoid losing the house, but it was way too close for comfort, and people aren't letting that slide. Reports say Nicki allegedly had to come up with roughly $500,000 just to keep the property from being taken, and that kind of last-minute save would shake anyone. Instead of treating it like a serious wake-up moment, she stayed online doing the absolute most, posting nonstop, reacting emotionally, and keeping herself right in the middle of the chaos. That constant online behavior is exactly why DL Hughley eventually stepped in publicly. He didn't focus on jokes or drama, he focused on reality. He reminded her straight up that she has much bigger problems to deal with than whatever Don Lemon is doing, and a lot of people agreed with that take immediately.
Yesterday, US Weekly broke the news that Nicki Minaj's house is at risk of being seized due to a lawsuit.
Rule, she should be deported because I don't think, reportedly, that she is a legal citizen here. She is undocumented.
According to Hughley and other critics, Nicki's attention should be on the fact that her husband's legal issues haven't gone away and continue to drain the wealth she spent years building. This isn't some temporary mess or a quick headline. This is long-term pressure, real financial strain, and consequences that don't disappear just because the internet moves on. People were quick to point out this goes way beyond social media drama. This is about real money leaving her accounts, real risks tied to her future, and real stress that keeps stacking up. While Nicki was clapping back online, critics were openly asking how long she could realistically keep paying to clean up situations she didn't personally create. Some fans rushed to call it a win just because she didn't lose the house. But others saw that argument as missing the entire point. Imagine being forced to hand over $500,000, not because of something you personally did wrong, but because your spouse can't stay clear of legal trouble in the public eye. That's the part people say is impossible to ignore. As critics keep repeating, he creates the problem and she pays the price. And that uneven setup is exactly why many are calling the whole situation humiliating.
This is what I'll say to Nicki Minaj. I normally don't respond to things like this, but, F it. I'm going to do it this time. I think Nicki Minaj has made it very clear how she feels about African Americans in this country. I don't think she's one of them, obviously. And she should, under Trump's rules, she should be deported because I don't think, reportedly, that she is a legal citizen here. She is undocumented. And so she has shown her disdain for African Americans. So why are you supporting her? Why are you buying her records? She's also supporting, I have lots of gay friends who love Nicki Minaj. Why are you supporting this homophobic, bigoted, ignorant?
What's making things look even worse is the growing belief that Nicki is now aligning herself with figures like Erica Kirk and leaning into MAGA-adjacent political spaces allegedly as a way to stay financially steady and help cover ongoing legal costs tied to her husband online. That shift has been labeled by critics as desperate, opportunistic, and completely off-brand. And watching someone with Nicki's legacy make moves like this has left a lot of longtime supporters feeling confused, disappointed, and uneasy. A lot of people said they were genuinely stunned by how bad the situation had gotten. But Hughley made it clear he felt zero sympathy was owed. His position has been consistent and blunt. From his point of view, Nicki made her choices, and she continues to stand beside people with serious legal histories, knowing exactly what comes with that. In his eyes, the consequences were never a surprise. They were always part of the deal. With that context, it's important to understand how the house situation even reached this level in the first place, because it didn't come out of nowhere. Public records show that in 2024, Nicki was hit with a default judgment totaling roughly $500,000, and that judgment was directly tied to a lawsuit connected to her husband, Kenneth Petty. That lawsuit traces all the way back to an alleged incident in 2019 while Nicki was on tour in Germany.
Nicki Minaj's brother and his attorneys thought he would be walking out of court a free man today. Jelani Mirage was convicted last November of repeatedly raping an 11-year-old.
According to court filings, a confrontation reportedly broke out involving Nicki and a female security guard backstage, and things quickly got chaotic. As tensions rose, a male security guard stepped in to break things up and calm the situation down. That guard, unidentified in the lawsuit as Thomas Wayden Muller, claimed he was attempting to de-escalate the conflict and keep everyone separated. But according to his account, the situation didn't cool off at all. It escalated even further. When Kenneth Petty allegedly became involved, Thomas claims Kenneth approached him from the side and struck him, causing a serious jaw injury that required medical attention. Those allegations became the core of the lawsuit and instantly pushed the situation into much more serious territory. Both Nicki and Kenneth were named in the legal action, making it impossible to brush off as a minor incident. However, reports indicate that neither of them responded to the lawsuit, and they reportedly left Germany after authorities issued a warrant connected to Kenneth. Because there was no response and no appearance in court, the case moved forward without them. That lack of participation led to an automatic ruling against both parties, setting off the chain reaction that eventually put Nicki's home and finances at serious risk. Even after the judgment was officially entered, the situation reportedly stayed unresolved, and that's when things really started to feel dangerous for Nicki. The payment wasn't made, the debt didn't disappear, and the case refused to fade quietly into the background. Instead, the pressure kept building, forcing the security guard to return to court and demand enforcement of the judgment rather than waiting any longer. According to reports, he specifically asked the court to allow Nicki's Hidden Hills mansion to be sold to satisfy the debt. And that request instantly changed the tone of everything. This wasn't theoretical anymore. This was real property, real risk, and a real possibility that her personal space could be taken to cover a legal obligation tied to someone else's actions. The judge reportedly took that request seriously, pointing out that there was more than enough equity in the home to cover what was owed. That detail alone sent shockwaves through public discussion. It meant the house wasn't protected by technicalities or delays. It was a viable option on the table. That's when the situation officially hit the brink. Fast forward to the present, and the contrast couldn't feel more extreme. The same Nicki Minaj who once spoke emotionally about immigrant families, inequality, and social responsibility is now openly leaning into hardline political rhetoric tied to MAGA culture and its surrounding personalities. This shift didn't happen quietly or gradually. It happened fast, publicly, and without much explanation. She's been openly praising controversial political figures, flattering them, and echoing talking points that feel completely disconnected from her past messaging. For longtime supporters, it feels jarring. People aren't just disagreeing, they're confused, unsettled, and trying to make sense of how this pivot happened so suddenly. That confusion has turned into uncomfortable questions. The biggest one circulating online is simple but sharp. Is this about money? People are openly wondering how bad the financial pressure has gotten for Nicki to align herself with a political crowd she once openly criticized and distanced herself from. Some believe this move looks like desperation, a calculated attempt to tap into a new audience, new platforms, and new financial support to stay afloat while legal costs continue stacking up. Others think something deeper is happening, that this isn't strategy at all, but someone unraveling in real time under nonstop stress and public scrutiny. Meanwhile, voices like Hughley have made it clear none of this surprises them. From his perspective, Nicki fitting into MAGA-adjacent circles feels more natural than her fans want to admit. In his view, the current choices aren't random, they're revealing. pulling back the curtain on where she truly aligns when pressure hits hardest. D.L. Hughley has argued that when you really step back and look at Nicki Minaj's history, the alignment people are talking about starts to make a lot more sense. From his perspective, this isn't some random shift or sudden change. It's consistent behavior playing out again under pressure. According to growing public discussion, critics say this situation goes far beyond her husband, Kenneth Petty. They point out that Nicki has repeatedly stood 10 toes down behind people in her inner circle who have serious criminal histories, even when doing so puts her directly at odds with public opinion. While some fans try to separate each situation and treat them as isolated incidents, Hughley's argument is that there's a clear pattern in his view. He believes Nicki has always chosen loyalty over accountability, even when that loyalty comes with real consequences for her reputation and career. People also remind others that this didn't begin with Kenneth Petty at all. Long before he entered the picture, Nicki publicly defended her brother, Hughley Minaj, during a widely reported criminal case that later resulted in a lengthy prison sentence. Because the case involved a minor, it sparked intense backlash at the time and became a major turning point in how parts of the public viewed Nicki. Despite the seriousness of the situation, reports say Nicki wrote a letter to the judge requesting leniency for her brother. In that letter, she described him in glowing terms, calling him patient, gentle, generous, and selfless, language that many critics felt clashed sharply with the severity of the case itself. That moment stuck with a lot of people, and critics say it helped solidify a long-standing concern about where Nicki draws the line when it comes to accountability. In their view, this pattern of defending those closest to her, no matter the circumstances, explains why her recent moves don't feel shocking to them at all. For voices like D.L. Hughley, this isn't a sudden fall or a surprising turn. It's the continuation of a mindset that's been visible for years, now playing out on a much bigger and more public stage. That decision shocked a lot of people and permanently changed how parts of the public viewed Nicki Minaj's judgment. For critics, that moment locked in a belief they haven't been able to shake since. The idea that Nicki is willing to excuse almost anything when it involves her family didn't come from nowhere. It came from watching her choices play out again and again under pressure. That's why some observers are now saying this recent MAGA-leaning turn isn't a betrayal of who she used to be, but a revelation of it. In their view, maybe this is who Nicki has always been, and the fame, the money, and the carefully polished image just kept it hidden long enough for people not to question it. Others see the situation very differently. They believe Nicki is operating in straight survival mode right now, reacting to non-stop financial pressure, ongoing legal stress, and a career that doesn't move the way it once did. From that angle, every move looks less like belief and more like necessity, and that brings the conversation full circle. Is D.L. Hughley right when he says Nicki has much bigger issues to worry about than Don Lemon? Does her political pivot point to desperation driven by mounting legal bills, shrinking opportunities, and the need to stay relevant in any way possible? Or is this simply the mask slipping, revealing priorities and beliefs that were always there, just buried beneath years of success and public praise? That's the real question people are debating right now, and it's not going away anytime soon. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know where you land on this. Do you see this as desperation, survival, or something that's been there all along? And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like this video. And subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs to see it, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. I'll catch you in the next video. Stay locked in.